This podcast is recorded on stolen and unceded Aboriginal land.
We acknowledge the First Nations and elders of this country and join their calls for justice. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I've misunderstood the video that I saw with my literal two eyes.
Yes.
You know, it's just this classic case of gaslighting.
If you want the goal for life, free marijuana, vote Green.
There's a bunch of ratbags and a bunch of idiots, and I got no time.
The Greens get way too good a run in the Australian media, way too free a run.
Frankly, I've always found the Greens to be a real serious danger.
Jan, where do you stand on the flag? Do you like the flag? Are you pro the flag? How do you feel about the flag?
I stand on the flag. I stand directly on. No, let me retract that in real time before I get deported. There's a very real chance of that. Look.
Classic Lebanese. They made mistakes in the 70s, letting you lot in.
And this is it now. This is the fruit of that mistake. This person specifically. Where do I stand on the flag? If I'm being honest, look, I have trauma from Cronulla that just has not left my body yet. Yep. And part of that trauma has to do with the flag. And that's unfortunate. Because every time I think of the flag, I just think of people wrapping themselves in the flag and just chanting, fuck off Lebs.
Yeah.
So it's not a good vibe, I will say.
Not a good association.
And I lament that. I wish that wasn't the case, but it is the case. So
sure. Well, the future Prime Minister of this country, Angus Taylor, will disagree with you very strongly there. He has very positive feelings about the flag. I read this in an article sort of behind the scenes from the Saturday paper, and it really made me laugh. When Angus Taylor won the Liberal leadership 8 days ago, he stood up to address the party room. He spoke a little bit about immigration. He riffed about childcare a lot, which was very unusual, and how we're going to have nanny vouchers and all that. But there was no other issue forthcoming except the crescendo of the speech, a Liberal MP tells the Saturday paper. The room goes all sombre and silent, as you do in the crescendo of a speech, and Taylor says, you know, there is, on top of this building, and he points at the sky, his voice going all hush, just one flag. And then he pauses for effect, heavy with gravitas, and looking up, he says, and it's the Australian flag. Oh, shit, that's what's up there on the top of Parliament. I've always wondered about that. Then up came this almighty cheer from the hard right. Tony Passon almost had a hernia jumping out of his chair. James Patterson went crazy. Okay, that's wild. I've never seen James Patterson go crazy or have any passion for anything at all. And a lot of us are just sitting there thinking, oh, fuck, what is this all about? Yes, there is a big flag on top of the building, but so what? The cheer was totally disproportionate to the crescendo of the speech, and the reason I'm telling you this is because it reveals our problem. It wasn't a speech that said, we're going to cut taxes, yay. There was nothing about reforming the economy or free markets or deregulation. The key takeout was that there is a big motherfucking flag on top of Parliament and only one flag. Sure, I love the flag, but I definitely didn't feel like jumping out of my seat and yelling out, yes, we're going to win the next one. I was actually dying inside because that kind of thinking is not going to get us anywhere. Honestly, when I got home, I said to my partner, I can't cope with this shit. It was, in my view, his first major error. All right, so Angus's first major error was in his opening speech, having just won the leadership, straight out of the gate. How cool is that flag up there? And then Liberal moderates, I suppose, in the audience being like, why aren't you talking about cutting taxes? Who gives a fuck about the fucking flag? Don't you know that's all bullshit, Angus? Don't you know we appeal to people's base nationalisms and prejudices to try and fool the pigs and the hogs? Here in the Liberal Party room, we should be focused on the real matter of our party, which is worsting inequality and making sure we look after the ruling capitalist class. Come on, buddy.
I love that moment. It was like, yeah, there's a flag. So what?
So
what if there's a flag? Which, you know, when you put it like that, that's true. So what if there's a flag on top of the Parliament? Oh, it is such a harbinger for things to come, though, isn't it? Like every liberal moderate has got their just fists and butts clenched in that party room, don't they? Like, where are we gonna go? Where are we gonna go from here? And if you start with the flag, you know you're not going anywhere good, right? Like,
he's going in the burqa. He is putting on a burqa and he is walking into Parliament House. That is happening. 100%. I'm putting that on my bingo card for 2026. I think he'll do it before the end of the year. I think we'll have Angus Taylor in a burqa very soon.
Do we have any indication of who this liberal moderate is or was?
No, but they're my favourite liberal. Whoever the fuck this person is, you are obviously I despise your political agenda and your fondness for cutting taxes and deregulation is evil. But you give a great quote here and I would love to know who the hell you are.
And then he goes to home to his partner or her partner, I don't know who it is, and just says, I can't fucking stand this shit. I can't take this shit. Well, I feel you, sir, madam. Yeah,
No,
we
none of
can't
us
take this shit either.
We can't take it. All right, this shit right here is Serious Danger, a podcast about green politics in Australia. It is Sunday, March the 1st. Summer is over. Oh, God, that is a bit sad. And I hope you've had a very good week. This is not an official Greens Party podcast. It's produced by Michael the Griffin. I am Tom Ballard, coming to you from Naarm on the lands of the Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung people. This week's guest Emerald Moon is none other than one half of the Hot U independent journalism outlet, ETTE Media. The most difficult woman that I know, Jan Fran. Hello, thank you for being on our show.
Thank you, Tom. And what a compliment to be called difficult these days. If you're getting called difficult, as Grace Tame said, by the former Prime Minister Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, and the President of Israel, then you're probably doing something right. If they've all admonished you and said terrible things about you in recent weeks, then you're probably on some kind of right track.
That's true. Now, sometimes I'm allergic to people being like, hey, I'm confident from the left and the right, so I'm awesome, because normally you could just be doing something terrible that everyone hates. But I think those particular villains lining up and criticising you, calling you difficult, you're absolutely right. That's a pretty good indication.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure heaps of people who listen to our show are ETTE heads. They're on board, the Etterati, as they're so described. If anyone is not familiar with ETTE Media and the kind of work you do, can you give us the brief overview? What's ETTE Media all about?
So, ETTE Media is a media literacy and critique platform. I guess that's probably the easiest way to describe it, but we do a bunch of things, which is we have a podcast called We Used to Be Journos. It's myself and Antoinette Lattouf, partly because I think we used to be journos.
Yes.
Antoinette stopped being a journo in a very dramatic way, if you will.
I didn't hear about that. What happened there? What was that?
Oh, you didn't? Oh, you didn't hear?
No.
Oh, you didn't know? Oh, just a wee thing, just a wee firing from the ABC.
Being difficult? Was she being difficult?
She could have been being difficult. Interestingly, no one came to her defense hugely when she was being difficult. But that's a whole other story. There's certain difficult women that we're happy to not come to the defense of, and others that we are. Anyway, we started this organisation, I think, in mid last year. And I think because we sort of just wanted to be able to talk about the media in a way that was honest and a little bit detached from it. And so the podcast is a weekly podcast called We Used to Be Journos. We have an Instagram page on ETTE Media where we break news. We also cover big stories that are happening with the media. And I think we come at it from a place of trying to dissect not so much a rolling coverage of all of the stories and happenings and breaking news, but rather trying to dissect some of the power dynamics behind them.
Yeah.
That's always been a point of focus for us. Where are the agendas? Who has them? What's driving them? And why you're sort of seeing the coverage that you're seeing. Rather than this is the coverage that you're seeing. There's hopefully a little bit more kind of analysis behind it. So that's us, and we've been around for. You're laughing. Do you?
No, I'm not laughing. No, I was about to say. I just think it's so funny. I mean, lamestream media as well. We have Osman on the show a lot, and the work that he's doing with Scott Mitchell as well. This kind of media literacy and critique is now such a fundamental part of just staying informed and consuming the news. It's like, okay, there's the story that I'm actually hearing about, and then, okay, where am I hearing it from? What are their form on this particular issue? Who owns this organization? What are their agendas? And I think it's a good thing that most people are far more media savvy in that respect and are much more critical of where we're getting our news from because, for a very long time, throughout the history of the media, there have been agendas at play, and different outlets have been serving different agendas, and it's actually quite depressing how much of the real story we're not getting. Certainly at the time it's being reported, it often takes decades after for us to fully appreciate what was really going on and what the media was saying and how wrong they were and how off they were. So while we talk about how fractured the media environment is, and there are some downsides to that, yada, 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 and obviously, journalism is being underfunded across the board, at least, I suppose, amongst the populace, a level of critique and skepticism about how we get the information that we get. I think that's a good thing for progressive politics anyway.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's the thinking. And I think that there's a lot more appetite now for that sort of conversation than there was 5 years ago. It's just sort of like my anecdotal feeling on it. But also there's a lot more possibilities in terms of the mechanisms now than what there was 5 years ago. So you have newsletter platforms that are Substack so much bigger now than what it was 5 years ago. You could feasibly start your own Substack, write your own stuff. I'm not saying it's easy, because it's not, and it's relentless, and you have to be extremely consistent. Anybody with a weekly, twice, thrice weekly podcast knows that. But it's possible, and it wasn't possible in the same way a few years ago. So I think that there's sort of like, it was a confluence of those two things, of audiences being ready, not just to consume this kind of content, but also to pay for it and support it. And the mechanisms and the scaffolding being there for you to be able to do that. And it's no surprise that, us, Lamestream with Oz and Scott, Deep Cut with Anton Issa and Alex McKinnon also started, we all started last year. And I think it was because we had always probably had some kind of inclination about the agendas and the power and why things are reported the way they're reported. And then the genocide and the reporting on the genocide probably spurred all of us. I mean, I'm not going to speak for everyone else, but that's just my hunch from the conversations that we've had to really kind of start something outside of the scaffolding of the mainstream media, looking into it as a, former insider. I mean, some of us still work in those places, but having enough distance to be able to be as honest and as kind of forthright and as uncompromising as we need to be.
Yeah. And thank goodness. Yeah. It's just the shattered level of faith in media organizations that are supposed to be dedicated to the truth and telling you the full story and relentlessly going after the story. And then we just have example after example of media organizations completely shirking their duty on that. Often with just silence, particularly I'm thinking of, say, Schwartz Media and the way that they've approached the conflict in Gaza and the genocide and the way that we know. I have a lot of respect for Schwartz Media for a whole bunch of reasons, on a whole bunch of other issues and the way they cover them. But on Israel Gaza, there's this massive blind spot that they will not seriously engage with and have completely, I think, vacated the moral space on what is the biggest story of the past 3 years, of our lives, of this genocide that our government is complicit in. They've walked away from that. Yeah.
And the stories that you would get, and look, I'm not going to say that the media hasn't covered it.
No.
Demonstrably it has. I think the big discrepancy, though, is what you get on social media versus what you get on mainstream media, and the very kind of personalized human stories that you see on social media that just do not register anywhere on our mainstream or legacy media organizations. And then you get things like there'll be a strike that happens and it's like one of the biggest strikes and 100 Palestinians are killed. God knows how many children, God knows how many women, God knows how many are injured with life-sustaining, with injuries that will last them their whole life. Like the carnage is so immense, and you will just get this very uniform line from, and I mean literally every outlet that says something like, Israel targets Hamas operator.
Yeah.
And the top line is the first line of the literal Israeli press release about that. And you see it on the Oz, you'll see it on The Guardian, you'll see it, this particular one that I'm thinking of, you see it on every media organisation, except for the Sydney Morning Herald, I will say, in this particular instance, had a headline that was something like, Israel bombs safe zones it tells Palestinians to go to. Which, like... For me, that was like, see, you can do a different thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, you can write a headline that's not verbatim an Israeli press release. It's actually very easy. You just did it. Maybe it's not perfect, doesn't matter, but you just did it. It's a choice. You can do it. And so, seeing that once, twice, 3 times, 4 times became this, it just kind of became a matter of kind of pattern recognition where you're like, oh man, what is happening here?
I want to talk to you more about this because we had an example of, yet again, an incredible piece of coverage of the conflict this week from the BBC and the BAFTA Awards controversy. Want to get into that with you and also discuss the fact that our Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is bad at saying things. He just keeps saying things that are bad, and we'll try and pick that apart and figure out exactly what he's thinking, if he's thinking at all. But I thought I'd ask you too, when we have a new person on the show, we often like to check in on their general thoughts on the Greens political party. This is an unofficial Greens party podcast, but we have some thoughts and feelings about the Greens. We are broadly on board. This is my own personal opinion. We would like to see them do well under certain circumstances. That's not always the case. I was at your live show in Canberra. ETTE Media recently did this big live tour, and you took questions to the audience. One of the questions of the audience was, what was it? Are the Greens still relevant? Question mark. What happened to those guys?
Yes, well, I think it was a conversation that we were what's the word? I think we had to park it because it's like, oh, this is a big one. This is a big one. This is going to take up the rest of the 12 minutes that we have left of this panel. Are the Greens relevant? I mean, I got to say, Tom, this week I'm reading that Pauline Hanson of One Nation,
I've heard of her,
polling at I think, depending on the poll you look at, about 25% of the primary vote, 2-5, has made it a policy to tax our gas companies.
Right.
That is now a One Nation policy.
Okay.
And I'm just thinking, like, where are the Greens? Like, actually, where are the Greens? Because I'm unclear as to what their messaging, I'm seeing disparate messages from, different federal Greens MPs. I'm not seeing anything that is coalesced and anything that is consistent. I haven't really seen Larissa Waters anywhere, unless I've missed it. Maybe it's just my algorithm. I don't know. You tell me.
She went on Abby Chatfield's show. She was on Abby Chatfield. That was good.
Okay. What was she talking about? I mean,
I guess she won over all those One Nation Abby Chatfield listeners.
It feels, I understand the loss of last year's election was a big one. I understand that you need the time to recuperate and then you re-strategize it. But it's March, babe. Yeah. It's now March, March. And you've got this like rise in the far right. So my question is like, what's the counterweight to the rise in the far right in Australia? Because it's not Labor. Yeah. We all know. We don't have to pretend it's not Labor. The coalition, I mean, they need all the help they can get.
They're focused on the flags. Yep.
They're very, very focused on the flags.
Well, you're saying that we talked about this earlier in the week, and you said it's like Australia gets the fucking Nigel Farage right-wing populism imported, but we don't get the Zach Polanski surge to the left. Like, we only got half of this terrible deal. It'd be great to sort of get the mirror of that.
Yeah, well, that's always the comparison, is that where, the momentum of whatever's happening in the UK with the right is coming into Australia. Because there are similar patterns, right? Keir Starmer got in on a fairly sizable majority, and now you've got Nigel Farage staring down the barrel of possibly being the next UK Prime Minister. He's on the far right. Albanese got in on a very big majority, not a very big primary vote, mind you, but a big majority. Thank you, preferential voting. And now you're looking at One Nation with 25% of the primary vote or whatever it is, right? So we're seeing that shift. But what's happening over in the UK is the Greens are doing really well.
So I hereby declare that Hannah Catherine Spencer is duly elected Member of Parliament for the Gorton and Denton constituency.
I didn't grow up wanting to be a politician. I'm a plumber. And 2 weeks ago, during all this, I also qualified as a plasterer. Because even in chaos, even under pressure, I get things done. I am no different to every single person here in this constituency. I work hard. That is what we do. Except things have changed a lot over the last few decades, because working hard used to get you something. It got you a house, a nice life, holidays. It got you somewhere. But now, working hard, what does that get you? Because talk to anyone here and they will tell you. The people who work hard but can't put food on the table, can't get their kids' school uniforms, can't put their heating on, can't live off the pension they worked hard to save for, can't even begin to dream about ever having a holiday, ever. Because life has changed. Instead of working for a nice life, we're working to line the pockets of billionaires. We are being bled dry. And I don't think it's extreme or radical to think working hard should get you a nice life. We have shown that we don't have to accept being turned against each other at all. And we did this with the people who live here, side by side, shoulder to shoulder, just as we have always done in this constituency and in the whole of Greater Manchester. Because this is Manchester, and we do things differently here. Thank you so much to everybody. Thank you.
And not just the Greens, but, I mean, put aside whatever the fuck debacle happened with this party, it's such a shame that it imploded the way it did. But Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana were starting a thing called the U Party, which, again, is a party from the left. And they were saying that they had, like, I think it was hundreds of thousands of people that signed up, you know. So there's some kind of groundswell in that country, whether it's harnessed correctly or not. Evidently not. But there's something going on the left that is, you know, like coalescing into movements. And old mate Polanski, that's his last name, right? I'm not thinking of that terrible. No. Okay, good.
No relation, I believe.
No relation, Polanski, no relation. He's doing really well.
Yeah.
And he's quite, you know, staunch in his messaging, and he's not afraid to be somebody that comes from the left. I think here we have a lot of timidity around that because we're trying to please, I don't know, we're trying to please the Murdoch press, or we're trying to please this thing that we've understood to be Middle Australia. I'm not exactly sure what it is. But he seems very sort of forthright and consistent in a lot of his messaging. Yeah. And so, we seem to have the Nigel Farage element of it, but we don't seem to have the counterweight on the left, which is why I'm asking, where are the Greens?
Where are the Greens? I mean, Osman, it's a familiar critique if people listen to Osman's stuff. It's sort of like, yes, at this particular time when people are so fed up with the status quo, so fed up with the way things are, the Labor government on the nose for a whole bunch of reasons. Cost of living continues to bite. They don't seem to be doing very much. They're, you know, spitting in the face of public opinion when it comes to like our role in Gaza, for example. In this particular moment, cowed from the 2025 election results, it feels like sometimes the Greens are saying, we're here to get shit done, sensible, pragmatic compromise. We're going to help the Labor do their agenda as much as possible. And certainly Osman's argument would be this is the worst possible time to be adopting that position. And I guess the essential poll we got this week sort of laid it out pretty clearly. So nearly 60% of Australians would be open to voting for One Nation at the next federal election, including nearly half of those currently backing Labor, according to Essential. So Labor's primary vote is 30%, Coalition on 26%, One Nation is 22%, technically. Don't worry, everyone, it's only 22%, not 25%. The Greens steady on 11%. Again, just remember, in May of 2025, in the election, One Nation got 6.4% of the vote. So it is crazy. I know this is a big story constantly, but like this surge is pretty extraordinary. Among respondents who said they'd voted for the coalition, 17% said they would definitely vote One Nation next time, with a startling 51% saying they were open to doing so. So more than half of coalition voters open to voting for One Nation next time. Among Labor voters, 12% said they'd definitely vote One Nation, 33% said they'd be open to it. And then, and I got to say, we look at our good friends, the Greens voters. Okay, so 13% of Greens voters say they're unsure about whether they're going to vote for One Nation next time, which is pretty wild. 54% say they would never vote for One Nation. Good work, Greens. We like that. 28% say they'd be open to voting for One Nation next time. 4% of Greens voters say they will definitely be voting for One Nation the next election. Now, we talk about this because when we talk about door knocking, like in Brisbane, Queensland Greens will tell you, we reckon we changed the votes of One Nation people on the doors. We met people on the doors. We talked to them about their material circumstances, what the Greens are about. And we said, hey, don't blame immigrants, blame the rich. And this is what the Greens are all about. And at least the way that door knockers tell it, you know, you did seriously seem to find some level of change there, because that is a voter who is so fed up with the system, they're looking for anybody outside of the two major parties, right? Because they see that the politics is cooked. So, yeah, they voted for Pauline last time, but what they really want is material security. They listen to Greens policies and they're into it. So I suppose it's not unreasonable to think that some people might go back, but yeah.
Oh, it sounds like you're telling me that this is actually fertile ground and time for the Greens to really stake their position in something.
Yeah, I guess so.
And be consistent and coalesce and have clear messaging and have boots on the ground, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I'm not surprised to hear that. I'll be honest, because going back to the gas thing, if you look at the percentages of voters that want gas resources taxed, it's a very high proportion of One Nation voters and a very high proportion of Greens voters.
Yeah,
so there's clear similarities and overlaps. It's that, what's that, the Ouroboros, the thing that just eats its own ass and just keeps going around in a circle. So it's like a mythical creature. I don't know. It's my favorite
thing. It's a snake eating its own tail. I don't know if it's eating its own ass.
Okay, right.
Eating itself out, giving itself a rim job.
But that ancient mythical creature has come to really be a metaphor for so many things politically for me. And one of them is that, if you go kind of the furthest left or the furthest right that you can, at some point you're kind of going to get a circle where they just meet at a particular point. And I think hatred of the status quo / wanting to tax billionaires or, things like natural resources is it sounds like it should be a strange meeting point, but it's not. And I feel like the Greens could really capitalize off that in a way that they, for some reason, are not doing. Do you know why they lost Wills? I feel like I should have looked into this a little bit harder, but why did they lose that seat?
Well, you've got some pretty technical redistribution stuff going on there, which is also it helps to explain a bit why Adam lost Melbourne. The redistribution meant that a whole bunch of Melbourne went into Wills. So the Greens vote definitely went up. They came very close. It's not like it was a rejection of the Greens. It was very close. It just wasn't enough to get them over the line in that particular circumstance. And the fact that the seat of Melbourne lost a bunch of seats that went to Wills also contributes to the, it helps to explain somewhat why Adam was not returned too.
Sure.
So it's a little bit boring. But next time, I don't know, as a Victorian Green, I'm legally required to say next election we will definitely win Wills. So there you go.
Okay. All right. Well, look, all this to say as well, the election's not till 2028. And everything is always a moving feat. Nobody remembers anything that happens 6 weeks prior to an election anyway. So all of this is it's trying to understand the moment that we're in, not necessarily what the result of the next election is going to be, but just vaguely the rough direction that we're heading,
Yes, well said. All right, quick bit of show admin, 24 minutes into the show. That's my mistake. Big thanks to Louise, Michael, Ohana, Gabrielle, Nick, Tom, Louise, a different Louise, B, Billy Green, Plip, Sarah, Biss, Kirstine, Lynette, Amy Lou, Ty, Diana, Aurora, Nash, and Faith. We love you for becoming Danger Dogs, paying $3 a month for bonus content. Our latest Patreon episode is a big conversation between myself and Emerald about personality politics, how important are personalities of our candidates and MPs, how should the Greens approach that, are people just voting on vibes, is Pauline Hanson likeable? Ooh, I'm sure you have thoughts about that, Jan Fran, and how spicy. Clearly, a lot of people think that she is. I think those people are silly and wrong. But we talked about it all, so have a listen to that. Give us a 5-star review on your podcast app of choice. Help spread the word. We'd really appreciate that. And a final plug for me. I'm doing my show, Be Funny Challenge Impossible, at the Adelaide Fringe all this coming week. I'm doing 7 shows, 6:30 p.m. at the Howling Owl, except for Saturday afternoon. We're doing a 3:15 p.m. matinee as well. You saw me tell jokes recently, Jan. I was funny, wasn't I?
You were very funny. You're a funny guy. Can I give you an earnest plug?
Oh, God, go on.
Yeah, it's going to be awful for you, but I'm going to do it. You are one of the funniest comedians I've seen.
Okay, all right.
You are. And one of the smartest and one of the most handsome.
In your face, Will Anderson, you suck.
And you are better than Will Anderson.
Lock that in, clip that. Thank you.
I think it's 12 or 13 questions, one-word answers if possible. Let's go. Susan.
I'll try.
You'll try. Grace Tame.
Difficult.
All right, let's talk about Mr. Anthony Albanese. He's our Prime Minister. I don't know if you guys have heard of this dude, but apparently he's a big deal. And he has not had a great week. He was at the Future Victoria Summit at the Crown Palladium this week in the great state of Victoria, an event presented by the Herald Sun and the Victorian Chamber of Commerce. So let's just stop right there. Don't go to that event is my hot political tip. You're party of the worker. You want to represent ordinary people, businesses on the nose. Don't go to the Future Victoria Summit presented by evil billionaire media outlet and the Victorian Chamber of Commerce, who are actively hostile to the interests of workers and conditions. That's
then you
feedback.
haven't seen Anthony Albanese at the Resources exhibition in WA presented by Seven West Media.
Love it.
This almost seems small fry compared to that, but go on. He's hobnobbed in a few places with a few media organisations. Yeah.
Sure. Or he goes to Anthony Pratt's little mansion for a party there, or the Murdoch's Christmas party. Who gives a shit?
Or the Sky News opening of their, what's it called? News 24. Sorry. It's no longer formerly known as Sky News, now News 24, and says that this is an investment in journalism and therefore an investment in democracy, which is strange because the previous, one of the previous Labor Prime Ministers, Kevin Rudd, has called Murdoch a cancer on democracy, which is these two are there's quite a big discrepancy there between for democracy and absolutely destroying democracy.
Cancer thereof. Yeah. Do you watch Sky News, Anthony Albanese? Do you see what they're on there saying about you and about this country? No,
he's probably got staffers that do. Yeah.
Great.
And he gets very upset about it, evidently.
No.
Because he seems to be trying to appease them as much as possible in the hope that they don't stick the boot in as hard.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, we can be friends with the Murdoch media. They'll never betray us.
No.
We can do the Tony Blair deal, I guess, yeah. So he gives a speech. He was heckled a lot by climate protesters, solidarity to them. Some people were escorted out by security pretty quick. One woman seemed to be left alone for quite a while and was heckling him constantly until she was eventually shown the door.
Who've enrolled in free take. I presented a great Australian, Rob Winther, with an award for his 60 years of service to veterans at the Heidelberg Repat Hospital. I visited small businesses in Bayswater, even held an impromptu community meeting on a street corner in Thornbury. Enriched by generations of migration, I celebrated Lunar New Year in Lower Templestowe and celebrated Ramadan at the Dandenong night markets. Of course, in between...
Within the next minute, another demonstrator stood up and began heckling the Prime Minister.
Of course, in between all of that, I enjoyed a lot of great coffee. This is a wonderful global city to visit, rightly famous for its major events and vibrant culture. This is also a great place to live, study, and of course, the credit for that goes to the hard work and the aspiration of the Victorian people in this state's growing advanced manufacturing sector. The farmers who have endured drought, bushfires and floods, yet picked themselves up and won global recognition for the quality of their products.
Anthony Albanese barreled on, didn't acknowledge them or take any time to acknowledge the fact that people were yelling at him because his government is cooking the planet and actively opening new fossil fuel projects and, as you say, attending resource events for the resource industry because Rio Tinto are our friends. Then, after the speech, he sat down for an interview and ends up doing this rapid-fire word association game when he's asked to give one-word answers in response to various prompts. Second piece of advice, you don't need to do this, Anthony Albanese. You are the Prime Minister. Okay, don't go to the event at all. But if you find yourself in a Q&A on stage and a Murdoch journalist is saying, hey, just one-word answers, thanks, I'm going to say a topic and you say the first thing that comes to your mind, don't do that. Call them out on their bullshit and say, I'm not going to do this. There's no reason for me to give a one-word answer to any of this. Let's have a normal conversation like adult human beings. Would that be your advice as well, Jan Fran?
I mean, just do it right if you're going to do it.
Okay, yes. If you're going to give one-word answers, give good one-word answers. But I'm much big on, I think politicians really do think that they can't ever push back against a journalist. Like, that's going to look bad for them in every single instance.
Yeah.
That's not true. That is just not true. If you are a reasonable person and you actually call out the media on some of their bullshit, I think you could absolutely come off far better and more reasonable, and you could actually gain brownie points. You can gain respect by simply not playing the media's nonsense games, you know?
You know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that he knew exactly what he was doing. I don't think he got caught in a trap. I don't think it was, suddenly finding himself walking on eggshells. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. He answered all of the other questions. He answered every single question in the way that I guess, okay, well, let me rephrase that. I think he knew what he was doing for the room. And I don't think he anticipated the backlash that he was going to get for calling Grace Tame difficult. And that's why he's trying to backtrack, having called her that and saying, oh, no, I didn't call her that. I just meant her life in general, which no one buys. But I think he was playing to the room because he's trying to be friendly with all of the folks that, read the Herald Sun or have, any kind of connection to that part of the media. And for the most part, he kind of got through it, except for that one, although I reckon he probably made a calculation in his head that, look, the room is probably going to like this, saying she's difficult. I could probably weasel my way out of it in some way. Like, he's made all of the mental calculations. I don't think it was a slip up whilst playing a silly game.
Interesting.
He's been this guy has been a politician since when did he get elected? 96, if I'm not mistaken, or he has been in Parliament since 1996.
Yeah.
Every word that comes out of his mouth is he's game planned for it. Like, he's been doing that for 3 decades. So, which I don't know if that makes it better or worse. Arguably, it might make it worse. The fact that, he decided difficult was the word that he was going to go for.
I mean, he's weirdly gotten worse, I think, as in terms of a communicator. You would think, yes, 30 years in there, you would actually be really confident and have a really good grasp on what you believe, what you say, and expressing that. But no, he's actually gotten worse and worse over the years as he's risen through the ranks and eventually become Prime Minister. He's actually gotten way worse at clearly explaining what he's saying and defending any position that he takes. That's my particular view, but just backing up a bit. So he's given Pauline Hanson, he said divisive. One Nation voters, frustrated. Donald Trump, he said president because he's a coward with no backbone whatsoever. Got a great laugh in the room. Imagine if you actually said anything critical of Donald Trump. That would be ridiculous. The guy who's participating in a genocide and literally killing his own citizens on the streets with his fascist immigration border force. But no, he is the president. Good one. He refused to answer for Barnaby Joyce. He said, I can't do that in one word. I was like, all right. When asked about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, he said grub. Again, and Anthony Albanese taking the incredibly brave position of saying that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is bad now, which is just so, inspiring. Really great that you stand up when he takes those brave positions. Then we get to Grace Tame and Albo responds with difficult. Okay, so your theory is that he knew exactly what he was doing there, or did he mean difficult because she's out there saying globalize the intifada, or she's a difficult woman, or did he sincerely mean, as he went on to explain after the fact, that he meant she has had a difficult life?
I don't think he gives a fuck. I think he's just thinking about what is going to play in a room that he then has some degree of plausible deniability for if it blows up. I think that's the mental calculation he's made because that is the most cynical, most PR spin doctor driven mental calculation that you've made. You're in this room, you're trying to please these people, but you don't want to piss off these people too much. So you want to acknowledge, these people might not hugely like Grace. So I'll use a word that is, not super flattering, but one that I can justify, even in the measliest of ways if I have to, which it turns out he's had to, and he's gone and justified it by saying that, no, she's had a difficult life. So I don't think he was caught out. I think he'd made that mental prep. That is my reading of it. I could be maybe giving him too much credit.
See, but also I think it's the cynicism of the word association game, right? Like this is often people say gotcha journalism and you mean, oh, they did some good journalism. They actually presented your contradicting positions and asked you to actually explain them. And politicians will say that's gotcha journalism. It's often not. It's often a journalist actually doing their job and trying to expose hypocrisy and get an answer. This is gotcha journalism to me because it's like the Herald Sun clearly wanted to put him in awkward positions.
Yeah.
I noticed that Israel wasn't on the list of words for him to respond to in one answer because, of course, that would be outrageous to respond to like a difficult, nuanced political issue at the moment. To expect a prime minister of the country to respond to that with one word, that would be ridiculous. We would never do that, and we might get a little bit spicy. And I don't know, he might say something off track there, or how could you possibly expect anyone to respond to the word Israel in the current context with just one word? It's almost like this is a ridiculous way to conduct a conversation or shed any light on political issues at the moment.
It's almost like we should not be doing any of this at all. We should all go home. Let's shut this entire event down. It was a huge mistake. I'm sorry. We shouldn't have sponsored it. Nobody should read the Herald Sun. Have a great afternoon. That's really what it should be.
Again, no one answers my calls or returns my emails on this stuff. But anyway.
Yes. No, I understand what you're saying about like the parameters of the game. It was exactly. It's a terrible way to conduct any conversation about anything, and it's only going to lead to some, stepping on a mine somewhere. And you're right, the topics were very typically culture war topics, which is why you had Grace Tame's name thrown in there.
Yes, because the Herald Sun wants to talk about Grace Tame because of the Globalising Intifada chant. They don't want to talk about her incredible advocacy for the victims of sexual assault, child sex abuse, okay? Or the fact that she was, rightfully acknowledged as an Australian of the Year for that incredible work. They want to, do their Murdoch media right-wing punching thing and sort of say, look at this new lefty villain that we have. Right, Albo? Right? You're in the Labor Party, but you're really one of us, right?
Yeah. Well, he did the Weasleyiest thing he could possibly do, which is try, like I said, appease the room and then deny it when he has to. Like he didn't say she was brave or courageous or selfless or strong or dignified or any of these words that immediately spring to my mind when I think of Grace Tame. He could have easily said those. That would have upset the room too much, etc. Anyway.
And why difficult? I mean, we joked about it before, and I'm sure people, are generally aware of the way that word is sort of weaponized. But why, particularly for women, for outspoken women, often women of the left, why is difficult woman such a particular phrase that gets our goat?
Because I think it's just the number one thing that is hurled at you when you try and challenge the status quo in any way.
Yeah.
And that's the first point of call where you get a sense that people are going to try and take you down. And it is often hurled at women who try and challenge these, powerful, not just men, but powerful institutions, powerful people. In Grace's case, a powerful country like the state of Israel currently committing a genocide. And it's so trite and it's so boring at this point. I mean, that's the criminality of it. Mostly is that really this thing that has been hurled at women for generations that surely you've got something better than that, and apparently not. And it's also, I think, the hypocrisy of it is that, you support women like Grace when she's doing the things that you like her doing and that you want her to do. And then you're so ready to throw her under the bus with an insult like difficult the minute that she stands up against your policies or your party platform or stands up in a way that you don't like or you don't approve of. So it's the hypocrisy of it. And it's just that kind of confluence of the Venn diagram that is so utterly enraging. And you look pathetic. you look pathetic is and like, for me, it's like, it's the worst possible place that you can be because you're trying, say something bad. Say something really bad about her. Just say it. Or say something really good. Like, take a fucking stand. Have a position. Have a backbone about something. This is what has been so disappointing for me regarding Anthony Albanese. It's like, what do you believe? Fucking go balls out, bro.
You're right. Because even if we accept his explanation that he meant she had a difficult life, what a ridiculous thing to say about Grace Tame. Like, who would deny that Grace Tame, a survivor of sexual assault, child sex abuse, has had a difficult life? We all know that. That is completely uncontroversial if that's truly what you meant. So yes, why not actually say something about her and her work and her life? But again, don't play this one-word game.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you were right all along. Just don't play this one-word game. The next time, politicians are somewhere and somebody at an event sponsored by the Herald Sun or frankly anyone, and they say, let us play this one word, just get up and leave. Just take your microphone off, do that, and just get up and leave.
Well, because as you pointed out on ETTE Media, for some other responses, he used more than one word. When he was asked ISIS brides, he said making their bed and lying in it. So the rules weren't so strictly enforced that you weren't allowed to go beyond the one word limit as well, Anthony Albanese. But if you weren't terrified and constantly trying to lick the boots of the Murdoch media press, maybe you'd be able to do that, mate.
But just on that and on the level of hypocrisy, I'm sorry, just a second. So he comes out the next day and apologizes and starts talking about Grace as a wonderful advocate for children and how important it is to advocate for children and for children to be safe. And isn't it very important that children are safe because we care about the safety of children and so on and so forth. And yet he's asked about ISIS brides and said they made their bed, they can lie in it. Do you know how many children there are in that scenario currently? Did they make that bed? Do we not care? Like, do we care about child safety or we don't care about child safety? Or do we just want to espouse how important it is to keep children safe when it's politically expedient for you or when you're trying to, get over a scandal or when you're trying to put a spin on something? That to me is what gets me, Because I can't quite understand they made their bed and now they have to lie in it because the children didn't.
Nope, they sure didn't. And yeah, I despise the term ISIS brides, to be honest. First of all, it removes the fact that they are Australians. Yeah. Obviously, there's a pretty negative connotation with ISIS brides. My understanding is that, some of these women were children themselves when they came into relationships with some of these particular people. Regardless of their crimes, they are Australian citizens, and the media loves to get around that fact, or they want to try and imply that we should ignore that, or they're not really Australian citizens, or that Australian citizenship is conditional on the behaviour or the alleged crimes that someone might have committed, which is, of course, just not the case. It's not the case at all. And fuck this Labor government for, once again, abandoning any moral position here and sort of saying, nah, we'll get eaten alive in the press if we take a reasonable position on here. So, sorry.
And this is where I ask that question of who is going to ballast against one nation? Because this feels like Anthony Albanese playing to the one nation crowd and saying, well, we're going to be really tough on this as well.
Yeah.
And hence the question of where are the Greens? Because as I said earlier, it's not going to be Labor that's going to be the counterweight to one nation, demonstrably seen in instances like that.
Yeah. Well, the Greens weighed in on calling Grace Tame difficult. Greens leader Larissa Waters said labelling women as difficult won't silence us. Greens Senator Sarah Hanson-Young wrote, some of my best friends are difficult women. Okay, all of them, and I love them for it. And Grace Tame herself posted to her Instagram saying, difficult is a misogynist's code for a woman who won't comply. History tends to call her courageous. You did have a little bit of an exclusive at ETTE Media. There was this text message that was leaked to ETTE Media when someone was asking Albanese directly about why calling her difficult. Can you tell us a little bit about this story?
Yeah, so we got a text from somebody who had texted the Prime Minister, and of course we had broken the story at the end of last year about the Prime Minister's number being on this international website, which we called and confirmed was in fact his number. So it was the same number that text was sent to, and they got a reply. And I think the question that they asked him was something along the lines of, do you regret calling Grace Tame difficult? And he replied and said, I didn't.
I didn't. The silly word game meant that Grace has had a difficult life. Wonderful grammar from our Prime Minister as well there. But yes, that's the defence he's going for.
Oh, yeah. And then are you supposed to read that and go, oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I've misunderstood the video that I saw with my literal two eyes.
Yes.
It's just this classic case of gaslighting. And I think it pissed the person that sent the text message off so hard that they sent it to us. Because clearly they weren't buying it. Nobody's buying it. But even just that response of, oh, no, I didn't do what you saw me do. It really is gaslighting 1001.
They tricked me into a silly word game. Hang on, aren't you the leader of the country? You cannot form any kind of resistance to this Herald Sun journalist and push back in any way whatsoever, Anthony Albanese. Come on, man.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so we have had that published on Instagram, and then he apologized. But, just hours before he went and did that press conference where he apologized, he was basically denying that he'd said it at all.
Yes, it was a misinterpretation.
They were still working through the PR strategy. It's remarkable he replied, honestly.
Yeah, why is he replying?
Just don't reply. Don't reply to
next.
text messages that you get from people, from members of the public. You don't have to do that.
Very strange. I want to give a shout out to Tom Studens, friend of the show, at Maximum Welfare. Well worth a follow if you get a chance, but I thought this was pretty bang on. Albanese's biggest strengths and weaknesses as a politician all revolve around a weaponized inability to tell you what he really thinks. And anytime you actually get to hear what he really thinks, you will understand why. Which I think also feeds back to the conversation we had with Sean Kelly, who wrote the quarterly essay about what does Labor stand for and what is this fight that they're about. And this classic quote that Albanese gave is are you left wing or right wing, or is Labor more progressive, social democratic? And he says, I think we're Labor. Labor is Labor, and that whatever Labor does is what Labor is, and there can be no inconsistency because Labor is Labor, and whatever I think is what I think, and I refuse to take a position. Here we are.
And whoever I am, and what I've said, I've said. So just note that down. Are you noting it down?
I think you see it. This is why the Greens piss him off so much, I think, because his challenge from the left, when anyone seems to imply that he is not the most progressive person that he possibly could be, or that he's a right wing at all in any way whatsoever, any pressure coming from his left, I think infuriates him so much. That just goes against every concept he has of his own identity. I'm mates with Billy Bragg. I'm a fighter for workers. I grew up in public housing. There's no possible way that I could not have the correct position on this particular issue, or that there are legitimate people to my left on any issue whatsoever. Whatever path I'm choosing is the correct and most progressive possible option for someone in Australia in 2026.
Do you reckon he goes home and, has a nightcap with Jodie and just goes, what the fuck am I doing? Do you think he ever has that?
I can't deal with this shit anymore. I'm sick of the flag.
I can't deal with this.
Speaking of saying things that upset people and it not working out great, of course, big story this week that has been covered relentlessly. I'm sure everyone's experienced the take factory on this particular one, but I think there's more in this particular story about what happened to the BAFTAs relevant to your expertise, Jan Fran. The BBC has apologised for any offence caused after broadcasting a racial slur shouted by a guest with Tourette syndrome at the BAFTAs while two black presenters were on stage. John Davidson, whose life story inspired the film I Swear, shouted the N-word as Sinners stars Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo presented the award for special visual effects at Sunday's ceremony. The unintended outburst was not edited or beeped out from the BBC's delayed television broadcast or BBC iPlayer, where it could still be heard on Tuesday morning. Some viewers may have heard strong and offensive language during the BAFTA Film Awards 2026, a BBC spokesperson said. This arose from involuntary verbal tics associated with Tourette syndrome and was not intentional. We apologise for any offence caused by the language heard. Davidson, who had several other involuntary outbursts earlier in the night, reportedly left the ceremony after the incident. In a statement later, he said he was deeply mortified by the incident. In addition to the announcement by show host Alan Cumming, the BBC and BAFTA, I can only add that I am and always have been deeply mortified if anyone considers my involuntary tics to be intentional or to carry any meaning, he said. Okay, so we'll move on to the other element of the story, which is relevant. But just on the facts of the case itself, what did you make of all this? The massive outcry and the backlash, perhaps hopefully a greater understanding of what Tourette's is. And more importantly, am I allowed to find any of this funny? Are we allowed, is there anything amusing here, even a very dark black comedy way, or is it all pretty bleak?
I think you are finding it funny. Whether or not you have any permission to is a completely different story.
I'm sorry.
Look, anything can be funny. This one is like confusing.
Yes.
If we're going to be diplomatic. And why did they not just cut it out of the broadcast? They had 2 hours.
Definitely
a 2 hour. You've worked on live television.
Yep.
You've worked on on programs that have delays. If you have a delay of 10 minutes, that's a lot.
That is a lot of time. On radio, we had about 10 seconds. So if someone said, fuck, you had to go to the delay version and then cut out and come back to live. And that was an expectation. And that's how it worked, yeah.
They had 2 hours, and it was just the most unfortunate confluence of events, like this cascade of events. You're like, fuck me, how did no one... There were so many points in that spectrum where someone could have stepped in the, at the right time, in the right way, and just really kind of nipped it. And we get it. It's unfortunate. But fucking hell, they just... They left it in. And you know what I haven't seen, or some of the commentary that I've seen, which I think is quite reasonable, is around the question of like, I understand that the gentleman had Tourette's and that is an involuntary thing. Totally. And he was mortified and apologized and all the rest of it. But it's like the word was still out there.
Yes.
As the presenters were on the stage. You know what I mean? Like they still had to hear that.
Yep.
The audience had to hear that. There's still an element of humiliation there. Yep. So like as a broadcaster, you definitely have a responsibility to the people that you're broadcasting to ensure that they're not humiliated or that they're not anyway.
Yes. Please allow me to submit my defense. I am nowhere minimizing the pain and trauma and shock of being a person of color and hearing that kind of racial slur. Particularly
No. I wasn't suggesting that you were. Yes.
Yes, but also for the sake of the listeners and the viewers. So that's not funny. And I feel awful for this guy who it was obviously a reality of his life, living with Tourette syndrome, and I think that's terrible. And I sincerely believe he was mortified. And yes, it's just a terrible situation. I suppose the black humor for me is like, as some people put it, this is like a wokeness word problem that someone would have come up with in terms of like the conflicting beats of saying a racial slur, particularly the N-word, which is horrific and has a terrible history associated with it, and ableism as well, and understanding where people with Tourette syndrome
You know who we should all be laughing at, Tom? You know who is very much the butt of this joke? It's everyone in that BBC control room.
Yes.
It's them.
The way the BAFTAs handle it seemed like it was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say there was a response to it from some people, including like Jamie Foxx, who seemed to be like, having Tourette syndrome is no excuse for this. And I'm like, no, it actually is. It's actually like quite a good excuse and explanation of what happened here. I mean, Jamie Foxx tweeted, nah, he meant that shit. And I think people, particularly from the Tourette's advocacy community, were trying to make it really clear, no, he really didn't. This is not thoughts that he has in his head that his syndrome makes him say out loud. That's not quite how it works. This guy, John Davidson, has previously yelled, fuck the Queen, while receiving an award from the Queen. His car was being searched by armed police at the palace, and he yelled, I've got a fucking bomb. And he yelled, you're going to die, at a woman with cancer. So, yes, I think, and, shout out and solidarity to the people in the Tourette's advocacy community who are sort of saying, people do not understand how this syndrome works. These comments that come out involuntarily as part of verbal tics are not a reflection of a person's beliefs, intentions, or characters. And we really need to make that clear. The lack of control over that, which again must be such a difficult way to move through this world. And full credit to this guy for being a pretty remarkable advocate, I think, and trying to raise awareness about it. So,
but anyway. You know who did have control? You know who was literally sitting in a thing called a control room?
Yes.
That was all of the people at the BBC who could have fiddled with a few buttons. Just a few buttons and cut that one out of the broadcast.
Yeah, which would have been reasonable. But they were too busy censoring some other parts of the broadcast, which of course would have been deeply offensive if they went out on air. They didn't find time to edit the N-word. Again, I'm reading from ETTE Media here. But they did find time to cut a section of award-winning filmmaker Akinola Davies Jr.'s acceptance speech about occupation and persecution, culminating in the term Free Palestine. My Father's Shadow filmmakers Wale Davies and Akinola Davies Jr. won the BAFTA Film Award for Outstanding British Debut on Sunday, and at the end of his acceptance speech, Davies said this:
"To the economic migrant, the conflict migrant, those under occupation, dictatorship, persecution, and those experiencing genocide, you matter, your stories matter more than ever. Your dreams are an act of resistance. To those watching at home, archive your loved ones, archive your stories, yesterday, today, and forever. For Nigeria, for London, the Congo, Sudan, Free Palestine." Thank you.
But what do you know it? The broadcast, that did not make it to air. Those last couple of sentences there showing solidarity for people living under occupation and saying for Nigeria, for London, Congo, Sudan, Free Palestine, didn't actually end up on the telly because that's offensive.
Actually, the whole bit got cut. Even that beautiful bit where he was saying your dreams are resistance. And he said, archive your ancestors, archive your loved ones now, forever, for Nigeria, for London, for Sudan, for Congo, Free Palestine. None of that bit made it in there, even though that was clearly the crescendo of his speech and the bit that has meant the most to him. Nope, that got cut. And you know why that got cut? Because of one thing. It was in there. It was in there.
Well, no, it was for time, actually, Jan. It was actually for time. A BBC spokesperson said the live event is 3 hours and it has to be reduced to 2 hours for its on-air slot. The same happened to other speeches made during the night, and all edits were made to ensure the program was delivered to time. Now, they do say all winner speeches will be available to watch via BAFTA's YouTube channel, and that is true. Okay, so they did actually post the full speech to the YouTube channel. I believe it's got about 16,000 views at this point, which of course is nothing on how many people are actually watching the live broadcast. And it's very hard to accept the explanation that cutting 4 sentences would make a significant difference to the running time of the 3-hour program.
Do you know where they could have saved some time? I have a time-saving idea that I'd like to run by them, which would save quite a bit of time.
Hey, I've been in edits for things. It's tough. Do we keep the N-word or drop Free Palestine?
I mean, this excuse that, no, it wasn't. It was simply to get a 3-hour broadcaster. You know, maybe 2.5 years ago, you might have gone, maybe. But at this point, when we're seeing Palestine erased from any and all cultural institutions, I mean, fuck's sake, the British Museum got rid of the word Palestine from their historical archive. I think it was Irish television. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I think I did see something from that old mate Dalrymple, the head of the Empire podcast, there might not be the full story there. I'm not saying it's good and the conversation is ridiculous, but I don't think they're completely removing the word Palestine from the entire British Museum is my only.
Sure. Well, okay. If I retract that one, let me give you, I don't know, the 10,000 other examples of when the word Palestine has been removed from cultural institutions. There was like an Irish broadcaster or a Scottish broadcaster either a day or after or before the BBC that also removed somebody's reference to Palestine. I mean, people are getting their faces scrubbed off magazines because they have a Palestine necklace.
Yep.
You know, it's wild. Wasn't there an award ceremony where who was it? Somebody fact check this. There was like a celebrity walking and they blurred the Palestine. They had like a Palestine pin, but all you saw was like a blur.
Well, Guy Pearce had one removed. He did a photo shoot with Vogue France, and they before and after. One, he was wearing the pin, and in the Photoshop one, it was removed. And they came out and said, "Oh, it was some weird mistake. I don't know what happened there."
So we had to save time. They probably had to save time. They had to save time in the 2D image of Guy Pearce that they wanted to put in the covers of their page. See, I didn't even know that. I mean, there was that story about the artists, I think maybe in one of the galleries here in Australia, where it was an artwork by either First Nations or Pacifica artists. And part of the artwork had the Palestine flag. And that just the flag element was covered, not the whole artwork. Just like this is insanity, you know. So
I remember that story, and I remember the administrators saying to the artists, like, "Man, we're just in a really tough position here." You're not actually. No, you're not actually in a tough position. It's a really clear position, which is you're an arts organisation. You have an artist's work here. You must fiercely defend artists' right to freedom of expression, particularly during a motherfucking genocide, for God's sakes. And you've chosen to abandon that responsibility, throw that under the bus and pretend you're in a difficult position and almost play the victim like this is such a tough choice for you to make. No, that's bullshit.
And so when you get the explanations from the BBC that are like, well, you know, I mean, we had 3 hours and we had to, it's like, all right, just spare me at this point. We're good. We're okay. Thank you.
We know specifically beforehand, there was a story in Deadline the week before saying the BBC will be monitoring the BAFTA Film Awards closely for politically charged speeches after the UK broadcaster sparked a national scandal last year by streaming a Glastonbury Festival act chanting death to the IDF. That was, of course, the Bob Vylan situation, for which I believe they've been completely vindicated. I don't think Bob Vylan have actually been, those charges were dropped or what have you in terms of any kind of crime being committed from Bob Vylan. So they've obviously copped massive amounts of backlash and consequences and can't get visas anywhere, yada, yada, yada. And we're obviously demonized in the press. But yes, the BBC, their big issue with that instance was that they broadcast such a terrible thing to say out there.
You know what they're like now? They're like they're these kind of, you know, editorial middle managers or just these media organizations. They have these like word gollies, you know, that are just like, oh, you can't let the Palestine in. You can't let the Free Palestine in. They're just like swatting the Palestine away. And because they're so focused on the Palestine, they just, the N-word just gets through because they don't have their radar out for the N-word. You know what I mean? But their radar is out so hard for anyone referencing Palestine in any way that they're just like, when they get that, they're like, we got it, boss. We bloody got it, you know. And meanwhile, all of these other sort of, you know, very offensive terms are getting through because they're too busy keeping Palestine out of the broadcast and getting it down to that all-important 2 hours.
2 hours, crucial.
That they need to turn it into.
But it's the erasure and the omission to me is so much more sinister almost. Like it's one thing to be like, to demonize people, and obviously they do a lot of this, of demonizing protesters and look at these terrible people over here and make you terrified and make you think that anyone who's calling out a genocide or hitting the streets in protest is a terrorist sympathizer. Okay, that's one thing. That's one strategy the media likes to do. But when the things that we've seen are so horrific, and actually I think the media knows that public opinion is way more sympathetic to the Palestinian cause than certainly the opinions of most of the political class or the media class. The other strategy is to just not talk about it. Just avoid the conversation, remove, Photoshop, wipe out, edit out any references to the Palestinian cause or the idea that anyone saying Free Palestine should absolutely be silenced.
It's not even like the Palestinian cause, Tom. Sorry to jump in. Or it's not even like Nazim. I'm just going to steal Nazim Hussein's story. He said this publicly, so that's, you know, totally fine. But this was years ago, maybe like 10 years ago. He did a show on SBS. Nothing to do with Palestine. Mind you, zero, and happened to wear a shirt that said Gaza on it. Yep. And they had to Photoshop the Gaza out of his shirt when putting it, either when broadcasting or putting it on their like online platforms or whatever it was.
This is SBS, right? On SBS.
This is SBS. And this is 10 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago now. Right. So like the fertile ground has been there for this stuff to happen. You know, it hasn't just come out of nowhere. Yeah. It's been laid for years and years where people have this, not people, broadcasters, people in the media have this real aversion to talking about Palestine because they know that it's going to bring added surveillance, either from their manager or their manager's manager or the top boss. You're going to start getting things like unilateral decision-making where processes that were normally followed in one way stop being followed that way. Something just has to be done differently. You're going to get a slew of complaints. And anybody that's worked in the media will tell you, like, complaints are the top 3 things that they hate. Yeah. They fucking hate complaints because they have to reply to them and they just see them as a ball ache and they want to minimize them as much as possible. And so these things have been happening for decades, and people, I think, are prickly. And then, October 7 happened, the genocide happened, is happening, and you're seeing all of this silencing at enormous levels, and people being very compliant with it because they want to avoid the discomfort that comes with standing their ground and saying, no, we're going to broadcast this because it's the right thing to do. Or no, Nazim Hussein is wearing a shirt and he gets to wear whatever fucking shirt he wants.
Yeah. People can't see that collection of letters together. That it'll provoke terrorism. I mean, and I don't need to tell you, the ABC's been shocking on this too. But I watched Insiders, the 2 weeks of Herzog's visit. On Insiders, both those weeks, the word genocide was not mentioned. At no point did a panel of 4 journalists at the national broadcaster feel it appropriate in order to provide context for why people are protesting against this guy, why his visit is so controversial, why it could potentially contravene international law, which we claim to support as a country, that the findings of a UN Commission of Inquiry, every major human rights organization in the world, including B'Tselem, the Israeli Human Rights Organization, and the International Association of Genocide Scholars, that what Israel is doing in Gaza is a genocide. Not a single journalist, 2 weeks in a row, thought that raising the word genocide in any context at all was important for our viewers. Like, I was shocked at a point. Even at this point, I'm still getting shocked by the failure to fulfill their duty as journalists on this particular issue. It was appalling.
The omission or the minimization. I think there was one a journo who was talking about Herzog, and she said, well, some people don't like his comments. And I was like, some people? He's in a submission that's going to the International Court of Justice about the country that he is a leader of committing genocide. That's not some people. That's not a member of the public on the street that has written an angry Facebook post about not liking Herzog's comments. Yeah. So it's, and that's not untrue that some people don't like his comments, I guess, but it utterly minimizes and decontextualizes the gravitas and the seriousness of the situation. And that was just like one throwaway comment that was made where I was like, what?
Yeah, but you see it all the time, and Loki online put together like a montage of all the times on the BBC, anytime anyone being interviewed says something like genocide, what Israel is doing, the immediate response is, okay, well, hang on, Israel would say that's not the case, or let's avoid that language, or that's inflammatory, or whatever. But this idea that, Israel would deny that accusation of genocide is like, okay, you're giving that context. Yeah. Yes, I'm sure they would. I mean, obviously, anyone accused of genocide is going to deny it, but okay, you want to say that, that's fine. To give the full context, you would also have to say, here are all the other organizations and bodies that do endorse that allegation and have found that what Israel's actions are doing constitute genocide. Amnesty International, Doctors Without Borders, UN Commission of Inquiry. That would actually be giving the full picture in a journalistic context. But the way that the journalist pushes back against that particular interview subject, it really seems like Joe Bloggs here says that Israel's doing a genocide and Israel says they're not. So, who can really say?
Yeah. And it's like, but the ludicrous part of that is if you had someone on who was Ukrainian that was talking about war crimes in Ukraine committed by Vladimir Putin. I mean, I've never personally heard it, but have you ever heard a journalist say, well, I do have to say.
Vladimir Putin would dispute that, yes.
He will deny. Well, we do have here, Vladimir Putin says that he didn't do it, actually. I'm not saying he didn't. This is journalism.
Balls and
I'm just putting forward, the other side, if you will. I've never seen that happen personally, and it would be offensive if it did. But it happens every time for the state of Israel. And as though that's it's like, yeah, of course Israel denies it. What do you want? You want them to like get on a roof with a megaphone and go, actually,
you got me.
I mean, what element of this is revelatory?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then, of course, anybody that says anything otherwise is slammed as a partial. They're partial. They're an activist.
Emotional.
They're difficult.
Importing conflicts. Or if you're in Queensland, you say Free Palestine, or from the river to the sea, you could well be go to jail. So that's also good.
Yeah, that's also normal and fine.
All right, we better wrap it up. We've been speaking for so long. Thank you so much, Jan Fran. It's been a pleasure having you here at Serious Danger. If people want to check out and support and read the fantastic work you do at ETTE Media, what the hell should they do?
Well, I would say you can listen to our podcast, We Used to Be Journos, which comes out Wednesday mornings every week. You can also head on over to our Instagram page, give us a like. And more importantly, above all, our work is sustained by the dollars of people. So if you are a people and you have some dollars, head over to ettemedia.com. I'm terrible at spruiking. I'm actually terrible at spruiking, but the truth is that monetary support is so important, keeps us going. So if you value the work or you get something out of it, or if you've got some spare change, head on over ettemedia.com and hit subscribe. We would be much obliged.
Cancel your subscription to these terrible media organisations. Like I've done that with Fairfax. I've left them. I should definitely leave Schwartz and redirect my money to independent media organisations that tell the truth, if you can imagine.
Yes, and I am going to subscribe to Serious Danger, and I want my name specifically read out next week. I will be listening.
Okay,
I'm a
great.
danger dog, and I apologise that I haven't subscribed for the 2 years that you've been doing.
4 years, bitch, but whatever, that's fine. All right. Thank you for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.